exists, I just carrying to order at 5:02 in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. We, as you can see, are conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access to the discussions of the Boston Human Rights Commission, the public may access this call through telephone, video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to provide comments at the end of the meeting. And to let people know, this meeting is being recorded. So the first agenda item is the approval of the minutes from February 24th. Are there any additions, omissions, corrections? If not, can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
All approved?
Aye.
Aye.
The meetings are accepted.
I'm gonna abstain since I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay. All right, so we're going to start with the executive director's report, and then I'll give a couple of comments. So if Andrea, you want to start here?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. And first of all, I want to say first and foremost, thank you to all of the commissioners here. I also want to say thank you to the members of the public that are present with us today. And for those who do not know, I am Evandro Carvalho. I am the executive director of the commission. Obviously, we have a very full house today. We intend on having hearing on digital divide. And I want to thank all of the folks that have signed up to come and testify on this issue. This is obviously an issue that's very important to the city of Boston, particularly after COVID-19, making it, many of us being able to work from home, go to school from home. We also found out that many people will be left behind because of internet connections, because of lack of training, because of lack of computer and so on. So I'm excited to hear what members of the public have to say on this issue. So I'll be brief though, to just kind of flag for the commissioners about some work that we're doing that the commissioners may not be aware of. As you know, unfortunately, over the past year during COVID-19 pandemic, there's been an uptick of violence and hate issues against Asian American and Pacific Islanders throughout America. And in the city of Boston, obviously, we have about 70,000 people of Asian background, which is about 10% of our population. And so essentially, the Human Rights Commission, myself and Susan, particularly the team have been leading within City Hall in this space to gather other departments, including immigrant advancement, language access, many other, Boston Police Department and many other departments to figure out how we can help support the Asian American community in the city of Boston, particularly as it relates to reporting incidents to Boston Police Department, reporting incidents of hate to the city. And one of the things that we've come up with, and after this, again, I'll be brief. After this, I'll be sure to send you the full report or presentation that I actually did to the city leadership this morning, essentially indicating some things that we're putting together to do, including perhaps anonymous incident report or application, a way that people can come to our website, the Human Rights Commission, and let us know what's going on in the community in terms of incidents of hate. So again, this is honestly, it's for the past month, we've done a lot of work in this space, worked with many community leaders and other city agencies. I wanted to give it its due time, but I wanted to flag here for you. And hopefully tomorrow, next day, I'll be able to send you a more comprehensive report on some of the things that we've done and we'll continue to do in this space, hopefully get your input in this space as well. But without further ado, Madam Chair, I'd love to, just get back into the hearing and hear what folks have to say.
Okay, did you have anything else now?
Actually, there was one more thing. Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the things that, obviously we sent to commissioners many documents for today, one of which was and is a statement that we put together for, in release of essentially after the George Floyd conviction of the police officer that killed George Floyd last Tuesday. The Human Rights Commission obviously felt that we should put a statement out, talking about this issue. So again, that's another thing that's in front of you. Obviously, we want to release the statement, and hopefully you've had the occasion to look at it. Happy to engage you briefly in that space as well, but I just wanted to flag
Right.
that we have that statement ready to go as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, yeah. And Evandro and I worked on that statement together, so we both signed it. So I just wanted to pick up on what the executive director said about the incident report. That incident report will go up on our webpage, which is almost ready to go.
Yes,
And it will be ready. It is an incident report that anyone can access. So while the Asian American incidents have, I think hastened and is what is relevant today. What we want to do and what we've talked about always is recognizing a pattern in practice in our city of anything that goes on, as opposed to an individual complaint. And this will give us an opportunity to see what's going on in terms of incidents, not just maybe things that don't rise to what would be a police report or even an individual complaint of discrimination, but of things that might be harassment or something that someone saw happen that didn't happen to them, but they witnessed, so that we can get a sense of the kind of climate around the city and be more aware of it and see how we can respond. I mean, one of the things I can tell you is about the Boston Public Schools. While 70% of white parents are sending their children to school in person, it's about 30% of Asian American children are coming back to school in person. Now, that can have a variety of different reasons, but one of those reasons is concern about what's happening to the Asian American community. One of those reasons. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but certainly it is one of the reasons that is being stated from the Asian American community, and so sending off children to walk to school. And it's one of the things that is being attended to from the city and from BPS as well. So that's another example of, climate in the city and things that, as Evandro talked about, people are attending to, and things that we're seeing are being impacted. So I don't know whether anybody had questions about that, and let's sort of move on to the next thing. Anybody had comments about any of that? But it's the kind of thing we want to be involved in. We want to be a place, a catchment place, that if people are seeing things, they have a place to report to. The people aren't going to go to the police and say, I saw somebody say something negative about a Black person on the street, or I saw somebody, harass somebody that wasn't a criminal act, but I saw it happen. We want to know that. We want some sense of the climate in the city. And so this will be a place that people can bring that. Either they can have it with their name or anonymously as well. And we want a date and a time and a place, so we have some sense, not just a remark, but a date and a time and a place, so we can follow up. Yeah, Ben.
Are we going to be able to make that available in multiple languages? On the
yes, yes, we will.
Absolutely. We make all of our stuff available in multiple languages. We're very aware of that. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to bring up now, and we can continue to talk about any of this, is move up on the agenda. We sent you a letter that I wrote and circulated, Evandro and I and Reyes actually as well. And I want to take a minute to recognize my commissioner from UMass Boston, Commissioner Reyes, who has served as might as well call her a co-chair or a vice chair. She has served as a colleague above and beyond in terms of helping on a number of these issues, joined with me on a number of issues. Not only is she supervising the UMass Boston PhD students, but she's been a check for me while I've been writing some of these things, including the letter to the mayor. So I want to thank her publicly for what she's done. She spent an enormous amount of time with me, and I really appreciate her counsel and support. So it's been enormously helpful. So there are other lawyers in this group besides me. I don't call myself a lawyer anymore, Ben. You are a real lawyer. I think people have seen in the paper, I actually talked to the lawyers who are involved in this case, the plaintiff's lawyers. This case has been around since 2012. And it basically is a case, as I wrote, of 10 Black police officers, some of whom have already retired, some of whom have already been promoted. It is basically about a multiple choice promotion exam from sergeant to lieutenant that the department's not using anymore. And a multiple choice exam that they have gotten rid of, that they have replaced with a different kind of exam, including an interview. The case basically is really around intention. It wasn't intentionally discriminatory. It has gone through, I think, as I said, has gone to the district court, federal district court, 3 times on different issues, it's pieces, and the district court has found against the city and has found in favor of the plaintiffs. As I said, the plaintiff's lawyers asked for $2 million in attorney fees. They were awarded $1 million. The city appealed. And the city is being represented by outside counsel as well, by a law firm as well. So the city is not only now liable for the plaintiff's fees, it is liable for their own attorney fees. I assume, I mean, maybe the lawyers are doing it pro bono for the city. I have no way to know that. But the briefs, the appeal briefs have been filed, have been replied. The reply briefs have been replied to. There've been now 6 different, a brief, a reply brief, have been filed. All will be finished by mid-May, and then it will be docketed. The sense is that the hearing probably won't be till September. Could be earlier, but probably won't be to September to the Court of Appeals. The U.S. Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Justice has joined the suit as a friend of the court in an amicus brief, urging the city to drop the suit. The concern is not only that the suit should be dropped for fairness reasons. The concern is if the city goes forward in the Court of Appeals and loses and intends to appeal to the Supreme Court, there is a fear, because of the makeup of the US Supreme Court, that this could jeopardize some precedents in civil rights. Now that's a long way off, right? We're only in the Court of Appeals. So, but even in the Court of Appeals, they would just assume the Justice Department is urging the city to drop the suit. So I thought on as a Human Rights Commission that there's good reason for us to say to the mayor, we'd like you to consider these issues and consider dropping the suit. Not only because it's the right thing to do, because this exam was proven to be discriminatory, but because it in the end could in fact injure the cause of issues in civil rights litigation. And because actually in terms of monetary value, the monetary value of the plaintiffs winning the suit is well under $500,000, where the monetary value of continuing to litigate it's probably going to be several $1 million. It's at least $1 million now, and that does not include the monetary cost of the plaintiff's appeal after ended in the district court. So anyway, you all have the letter, and what I'm suggesting is, or asking for is, I don't know whether we need a motion to support sending this letter, or your assent, whatever you think is appropriate.
So from my perspective, the letter was sent out at around 11:45 a.m. yesterday. I've not had much of an opportunity to read anything about this case beyond skimming the Justice Department's brief, which I think, for me at least, raised some serious questions, not about trying to reach a settlement and actually just, because I guess is this just about money at this point?
No.
Is there injunctive relief against the city also?
It's not only about money. The city is still arguing legal.
Oh yeah, I mean that, but in terms of the order from the district court that's being appealed, is it injunctive relief, or is it just to pay these 10 people and to pay their lawyers?
The whole case is going up, Ben. The issue, the legal issues and the payment of the issues. The brief that's filed says that the decision was wrong.
Right.
Right.
I understand that, but what is the remedy that is being appealed?
To overturn the case.
I'm sorry?
To overturn the case and send it back to the district court. That's the remedy. The finding was wrong.
What is the remedy that the district court ordered? Is it just to pay these 10 people money and to pay their attorney's fees?
The remedy was to stop, at that time, was to stop giving this test, right? And
right, but that's been
by
done.
now, they're not giving the test anymore, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing left is is to pay the plaintiffs. Yes.
Okay, because I mean, I see this as two different but related issues, because I haven't read anything other than skimming through the Justice Department's brief, and it did seem to me that it's concerning that the city would be taking positions that are opposite of some of the things that the Justice Department was saying there. And that, I think, is in some respects independent of whether the lawyers who you spoke with get paid, how much they get paid. I mean, I wonder if the communication to the city shouldn't be more along the lines of, you have this outside firm representing you. Do you know what they are saying? And do you really want them to say these things? Because some of these things are really
dangerous,
watering down Title VII, at least in the view of the Justice Department.
Okay.
But from my perspective, I would like a little bit more time to read into this, to think about this. But I view that as a slightly separate issue than, in terms of managing, because I don't fully understand the appeal. I don't know how much more it's going to cost the city to litigate it as compared to, what does it cost to pay off the lawyers, and are they going to get even more attorney's fees later? So I just haven't had enough time to digest that. If obviously I'm just one person, so if other people are comfortable sending the letter as is, I don't have a strong objection to that, but I can't really support that without doing some more reading and thinking.
So Ben, let me ask you a question. Or go ahead, Reyes, or whoever else. Anne, was it you? Who else was going to say something? You're muted, I think. No.
She's having difficulty. Madam Chair, I do want to do a time check. I know this is obviously an important discussion.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure that, folks, that we get to the hearing as well.
Right. Right. All right. So
I would say I'm inclined to send the letter because the letter doesn't in itself get into the very
The legalese.
detail legalese. And as a non-lawyer, I do like and agree fully with the statement that this is the right thing to do. The city should not discriminate. It should not be in support of discriminating its employees. And the Human Rights Commission should not stand by it quietly.
I concur.
And Anne?
I agree also. I did read the letter, and as a non-lawyer, I thought you laid it out in very simple terms that anyone could understand. And I appreciate the 3 points that you raised, Margaret, about we don't want to set bad precedent. We don't want to, the harm that it's doing, and the potential economic harm it could do to the city of Boston's budget. It seems like this would be something that we would want to send.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to make another point in general. I think that at times Boston's had a long history of fighting lawsuits, sometimes for the wrong reasons. And I think it's important that we start being consistent and both applying law and applying what we stand for as a city, and in this case, as a Human Rights Commission, about putting people on record or calling out injustice. And if basically we're aligning ourselves with already a court decision that is on appeal, I think that we're in the right. And I think it would be good to add some pressure on the right side. Clearly, there's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of different angles to this, but the truth is a truth and the facts are a fact. And I think it's good that we ask the city to be consistent and just follow what the letter of the law is across the board, regardless if it's 5 years ago, 20 years ago, or yesterday. So, thank you.
All right.
So, Madam Chair, just again, in a lot of time, perhaps we can put it for a quick vote. And it sounds like, so we can move
There
on.
are four of us who are in favor of sending the letter, and Ben has some concerns. So I would say, and I was trying not to be a lawyer in terms of writing the letter and not to get into some of the issues. So what I'm hearing is we should send the letter. And I will say, Robert, you're right. The city has a long history of fighting these things to the death and litigating. And I think some question, Ben, that you raise is, and I think maybe I can do this aside from the letter, is how much does the city know about what their law firm is doing? Because it seems to me that they should check and see. And I will raise that as well, because I wonder, sometimes this gets away from people. It really does.
Exactly.
Yeah, I will raise it because I'm not sure they do know. And the general counsel of the city now is gone. He's left. There's a new general counsel, there's a whole new group. So I will take that on to make sure myself that I will get to them to ask. All right, so what I'm hearing is affirmation from enough of us to send it. So let's move on to, thank you. Let's move on to the discussion about broadband. And let me just be brief. The UMass folks and Talia has done an incredible job. We decided not to send all the information she has gathered, which is an enormous amount of information, to show what is basically a discriminatory effect on Black and brown citizens in Boston in terms of access to quality internet. And we have a number of people who are here tonight to speak to us about the effect it's had on them. And we actually have a number of seniors as well. But we know, and we will share with you in the public soon, the effect it's had on students, on traditional age students, on adult students, on seniors, on people who are trying to get access to medicine, people in recovery, has had a very significant effect, which COVID has just emphasized. It's been there before, we just didn't see it. It's like seeing, the videos we've seen of Black men being killed by police, shot by police. We've seen it now. It's not that it didn't exist, it's just we didn't see it. And COVID has done that for access to the internet, particularly in terms of health, but also obviously in terms of education. So I welcome folks who have shown up tonight. We're very grateful that you're here. We're sorry we're running a little late. And Susan is going to serve as a sort of moderator here. She has a list of folks. And Susan, I turn this to you to call on people. People will have 3 minutes. And people also we invite people welcome to send in written testimony as well. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So we are going to start with Catherine Cohan. So I'm going to move you over to panelists. As the Chairwoman stated, you do have 3 minutes, and I will time you. And I will give you a 30-second warning.
And could you just tell us where you're from, or if you represented an organization, or?
Yeah, hello, everyone. Hi, good evening, Madam Chair, commissioners, and members of the Boston Human Rights Commission, as well as the public. My name is Catherine Cohen, and I am the Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy at the Massachusetts League of Community Health Centers. The League is Massachusetts' primary care association, representing and serving 52 health center organizations, serving patients at more than 300 access sites around the Commonwealth. Annually, our health center members provide high quality healthcare to more than 1 million state residents of all ages, representing a wide range of racial and ethnic backgrounds, serving 96% of the Commonwealth zip codes, and nearly 3/4 of Boston's federally qualified health center patients identify as racial or ethnic minorities. Health centers serve as the largest primary care provider network in the Commonwealth, with virtually all health centers also providing significant co-located and/or integrated behavioral health services. By mission and by law, in the case of federally qualified health centers serve all who walk through their doors, regardless of the ability to pay. As a result, the patient population at health centers looks very different than that of other healthcare providers, with 15% uninsured, 49% on Medicaid, and 15% on Medicare. So advancing and expanding broadband strength and access across all of Boston is of key importance to community health centers, who have used telehealth as an essential modality for their patients to access essential healthcare services throughout the pandemic. Telehealth visits are more flexible for patients who save valuable time traveling, no longer needing time to take off of work, arranging childcare and/or transportation. While 50% of middle to upper middle class patients use video telehealth, health center patients receive their medical care predominantly via the telephone. Results from an ongoing survey conducted by 16 Massachusetts community health centers demonstrate that the majority of health center patients do their visits on the phone. 85% of them do their visits on the phone, and 15% via video. So the League firmly supports maintaining access to telephone as a health modality if it's the patient's choice. However, for many health center patients, the lack of reliable internet means choosing a video visit is not even an option. Vulnerable communities in Boston with limited or unaffordable broadband services can often find themselves cut off entirely from video telehealth. According to the Social Determinants of Health Digital Broadband Access Census data, about 40,000 of 300,000 households in Boston do not have internet of any kind. Many low-income patients lack the devices, internet access, and/or digital literacy necessary to conduct those video visits. Others do not have strong enough internet connection to support video technologies. And as an example, for a successful video telehealth visit, many of our health center patients need translation services that require more intense broadband power. We really appreciate Mayor Janet's recent announcement that the Digital Health Equity Fund will be reopened and a planned investment of $250,000 to help close some of those gaps. And we encourage way more investment in this space. So access to reliable broadband is a social determinant of health, and we need to find solutions that make it readily available and accessible to many communities, many more communities. I know, expanding broadband access and technology for low income and underserved communities across Boston is critical to avoid exacerbating health disparities. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine. And we gave you a little more time because you're only representing, I don't know, 1 million people. So
Thank you so much for letting me go over. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Catherine. So up next, we have Carrie Ann Jean. 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry. Next, we have Lily Clemente. I will promote you next. And after that, we have Carrie Ann Jean.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Lily Clemente, and I am an AmeriCorps member at the Boston International Newcomers Academy. It's a public high school in Dorchester, serving immigrant students and their families. And my primary assignment this year as an AmeriCorps member has been to serve as a virtual English teacher. So coming into it, I set up my virtual classroom. I tried to get everyone's emails and make sure everyone had access to email, to a computer or a phone to work with. Their students usually have Chromebooks that the schools give them. Sometimes they're not sure how to use it, or they can't use it because their students using it for homework. But I didn't really realize until a couple of months in that really there was a huge issue with people not having access to laptops. I find that in order to have a good educational experience, a student really does need a physical laptop to access the Google Classroom and all the types of things I'm asking them to do. It just can't be done on a small platform like a phone. And so I went about, trying to find ways to solve this issue, looking for computers that my school might have, except then they were just more Chromebooks that couldn't be used by the parents because they have to have the BPS access. And then I was thinking of reaching out to other organizations, but ultimately I decided to reach out to my partner who has been helping me with some restoration of old computers to give to people, but I'll let her explain a little bit more about that.
Thank you. Hi, everybody, members of the commission, Madam Chair. Again, thank you all for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Hannah Look. I'm a rising 2L at Quinnipiac Law School in New Haven, Connecticut. Clearly that is my primary job at the moment, but through watching my wonderful partner teach these adult learners throughout the year, I have kind of lended a hand in my technology expertise, as minimal as it may be, to find people who are willing to donate old computers. Predominantly MacBooks is what my expertise is in. And I have taken the time during the school year to refurbish these machines and clean them out. And through the partnership with the Boston International Newcomers Academy, they have offered graciously to pay for parts for these repairs, and I have donated my time and expertise. And we have been able to give about 10 so far to adult learners, which has really helped increase the access and the ease of which they are able to learn and engage with their children and their school community. So certainly hoping to do more and continue with the school and hopefully looking for ways to expand this even into the community, because there are lots of machines out there, and certainly lots of hobbyists like myself would be happy to donate some time. But I've certainly noticed how much of a disparity that is, that people really do not have the access to the machines that they need, let alone the broadband access that they need to advance themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. I do not see Carrie and Jean on here. If you're here, oops, and that's the timer. If you are here, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I will move on to Joanne Chambers. I see two of you here, so I'll promote both of you. Joanne, you should be able to unmute. There you go.
Well, thanks for you all having me. I'm here just to explain my troubles with my internet. My name is Joanne Chambers, and I live in Roxbury, and I'm 76 years old. Loyal customer of Comcast for many years, 20 years, I guess. But right now, for the last 2 or 3 months, my internet connection is really not working. And what's wrong with this? I can be on Zoom, and with the COVID, I'm real active on Zoom to keep in touch with the world. And I get this thing called internet connection is weak. And I call Comcast at least 2 or 3 times a week. All they do is send a refresh, but that don't work. They have changed the modems twice. One last week, but it still doesn't work. So I'm at a point now, I don't know what to do, because when that comes, the internet connection is weak. The screen freezes, the sound drops. So you lose out on portion of even if it's a meeting. I play bingo a lot, so I don't get the number, I lose the game, and I'm real upset then. But I don't know, I call them, and it's just a telephone call. At least if they looked at my records, I call twice a week. I could call every day, to be honest, because it happens every single day, but I don't. So that's my story, and I don't know what they're going to do about it. I don't know where else to go. I mean, you know.
Oh, you came to us. Maybe we can help in the end.
I hope so. Thank you very much. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Joanne. So next we have Carl Richardson. I will move you. And after Carl Richardson, I have Nikki Schultz.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, is my video turned on? Do you want me to turn on my video?
Whichever you feel more comfortable doing.
All right, hold on a second.
Of course.
Okay, so my name is Carl Richardson. I am the State House ADA Americans with Disabilities Act coordinator for the State House, where it's my role to make sure people coming to that building have access to the many programs, services, and activities, regardless of their ability. I also serve on the Boston Disability Commission, have been there since for 12, 13 years under the Menino administration to the current administration. And I am also a member of the Disability Advisory Committee for the Federal Communications Commission, which is also trying to work on this very issue. So perhaps we could collaborate and share some documents and information on this particular issue. Today, I am going to be talking about the perspective of the disability community with regard to access to broadband. And there are basically 3 areas. One, which has already been discussed, is the economics of it, the ability to pay for it. Just like people of other minorities, the disability community can't always afford broadband, and in many cases are even poorer because they are disabled and they are unable to work. So that's one thing. And because of that, with the way broadband and access to information is structured now, they don't necessarily have access to healthcare, education, looking for work. I hope my boss isn't listening, but I just applied for 2 new jobs the other day and I had to do it online. So that's one. The economic can be challenging for people with disabilities. Secondly, the second area is the accessibility of it. So without broadband, for instance, a deaf person cannot communicate to another person because they need an interpreter. They need access to an interpreter, and or they need access to their video phone to even make a phone call. And yet the broadband companies are maybe we put in data caps on them just to be able to do simple things like make a video phone call where they need to interpret. Accessibility also for someone like me, even if I access the internet, every day I come across an aspect of the internet I can't use because it's not accessible to blind or visually impaired people or people who don't use their hands or deaf people. So, and I know this isn't part of it, but it's just something for this commission to be aware of, that even when we can afford broadband and access it, a large majority of it is not usable by us. Therefore, we are being excluded from education, healthcare, and even normal things like entertainment and doing things that everybody else does. And the last thing is access to the equipment and training itself. For instance, yes, I'm talking to you on my $500 computer, but I have $4,000 of equipment attached to this computer just so I can use the computer. And that's the case with a lot of people with disabilities. If you can't use your hands, you're gonna, or a mouse, you might need a switch. If you know, deaf, you need a fancy camera. In my case, I need a screen reader, which costs $1,000, and a braille device attached to it, which costs $3,000. I have to update those every year. And then training to use that equipment. It's very specialized equipment that not the average person can figure out how to use without training. They need to get trained and learn how to use it. So there are 3 areas, again, that the digital divide affects in terms of the disability community. 1 is the economics of it. 2 is the accessibility of it. And when I say accessibility, I don't mean access to it. I mean the accessibility of it, being able to use the service itself. And 3rd is the ability to get the equipment and be trained on the equipment. Thank you.
Thank you,
and
Carl.
for all you do. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. So next I have Nikki Schultz. I will move you out. And after Nikki, I have Professor Sinan.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and fellow Bostonians along on this call. My name is Nikki Schultz. I'm the Executive Director at Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly. We're a small nonprofit dedicated to relieving isolation and loneliness among the elderly. We primarily do this through community-based intergenerational programming. Before I get started, I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak at today's hearing on the digital divide. It's an issue that's been a long part of our work at LBFB and one that's taken on a new urgency in this past year. Just to give you a little bit of context there, about 3 years ago, we were seeking funding to start an intergenerational tech program, but were turned down. And one foundation had said that they were surprised to see our application because the assumption the grant seekers would all be from youth serving organizations. Fast forward to today, we have a new proposal for an intergenerational tech program, and there are several foundations currently prioritizing tech programs that reach older adults. So what a difference a couple of years makes. I'll start just a moment to share some data with you in regards to older adults and the digital divide. Get through the boring stuff first, and then I'll give a little more exposition. A recent Pew studies found that 75% of people over 65 and only 44% of those over 80 use the internet. The same study also found that technology adoption, while increasing among older adults, is tied to educational attainment and household income. Only 46% of older adults with annual incomes lower than $30,000 go online, and only 27% have high-speed internet at home. According to an Oates Research Aging Connected from this year, 42% of older adults who lack internet at home represent the second largest demographic group of Americans left behind in the digital age. In another report, Housing a Changing City, which is from 2014, 84% of Boston's senior households are considered to be low income, and 62% of low income seniors live in one of the Boston Housing Authority's units of subsidized housing. What we have found at LBFE as we've moved to completely online programming, we typically work in both public and private senior housing buildings. Our BHA sites have seen the greatest participant attrition. We've maintained relationships with some of these residents by our TeleFriend program, but our experience in the last year supports the overall data that older adults in public housing face some of the greatest barriers in accessing technology. So simply put, access to technology is a social determinant of health. And to be clear, when we talk about access to technology, we're talking about three things: the ability to own or access a physical device, affordable high-speed internet connectivity, and the support and training to use it. Without all three, we cannot say that someone has access to technology.
You have 30 seconds left, just as a heads up.
Oh boy, I gotta skip ahead then. I will submit this in writing. Just to sum up, we feel strongly that when discussing any opportunities for infrastructure, for funding, for resources, that older adults be considered and centered in this conversation, and that especially in public and subsidized housing, that broadband internet needs to be essential, and not just in the community areas. If we're talking about access to using telehealth, you don't want to do that in front of all your neighbors, and a community room with 5 computers with internet is not enough for a building with over 100 units. So I thank you all for your time and consideration today. I'll close by saying it again: technology is a social determinant of health and should be treated as such. And I applaud our community for holding this conversation and listening to the people before embarking on this courageous and important work. We need bold leadership and innovative ideas to take on the challenges of our times, and closing the digital divide needs to be grounded in justice, equity, and inclusion. Solutions need to be implemented by a commission representative of our community across cultures, race, gender, ability, economic status, and age. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Nikki.
you,
Can
Nikki.
you make sure we have your contact information, and can you submit what you're reading? I know you have data. If you would submit that in writing, we would really appreciate it. Great.
Wonderful. I will
Great.
submit that. And there's like 2 pages I didn't even get to read yet.
Well, we would love to have it, and we would like to have your contact information as well. Thank
Certainly.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikki. So next I have Professor Sinan. He's from Babson College. And if anybody else signed up that I'm missing, please raise your hand. Otherwise, anybody who would like to testify can go ahead.
So I cannot start my video.
You should be able to now. Sorry.
No problem. Oh,
There
great.
you go.
Hi, everyone. Madam Chair, the commissioners, it's an honor to be here addressing you on this very important issue. My name is Sinan Erzurumlu. I'm a professor of innovation and operations management at Babson College, and I'm the faculty director of the Future Lab on mobility and connectivity. Future Lab is an innovation lab that brings together our corporate partner, Toyota Mobility Foundation, our government partner, Executive Office of Elder Affairs, and of course the older adults, to come together and think about the issues that are challenging for the older adults in their later stages of life. And part of our work has been in this past year has been on the connectivity issues that older adults are facing. And we are predominantly looking into the social isolation and how to mitigate that. And quite a deep research into this, we see that 1 in 5 residents of the United States is expected to be age 65 or older by 2030. And when you couple this statistics with the strong evidence that many of these older adults are socially isolated or lonely in ways that put their health at risk, suggests that social isolation is as detrimental to the health of aging population as the pandemic. Actually, it could be arguably worse, right? This wasn't a problem that we were facing, just started with the pandemic. So one way to solve this problem is the technology. We are known to have great technology around us. We are blessed to use this technology, but when it comes to how older adults have access to technology, it doesn't give us quite a happy picture. Older adults' access to technology has been an important tool for their social well-being and their social engagement. But with the virus, their situation has been exacerbated, and it brought to light many social isolation issues already faced by this rapidly growing segment of the older of the population. And it demonstrates a serious need for technology to improve engagement for older adults. And in our work to mitigate social isolation and engagement, we have spoken with many experts. We have spoken with older adults like Joanne tonight on the call, and we try to understand what they are going through. And there's one single thing to say: broadband internet and digital technology is simply a vital necessity, like electricity or water. Imagine, like, without leaving your phone or your technology for a week, you can't do work, you can't talk to your loved ones. And imagine that we have spoken with folks who get 10-minute phone call in the deep of the pandemic just to talk with someone. So we need to get and reach out to those folks. And as we grow older, if you want to see that, each one of us should be able to live independently in our home or setting of our choice, where our changing needs are supported. And so access to affordable, reliable, and sufficient technology can help older adults and those of us who are lucky to get older stay connected with family, friends, and their community, as well as here benefit from healthcare services and other social engagement opportunities. Technology can help also caregivers in many ways by providing respite services, access to self-care, and assistance with caregiving tasks. So we have
30 seconds. Sorry.
No, I'm wrapping up. We have done this extensive study and we have looked into this, and our group is like trying to bring three pieces together: device access, broadband access, digital literacy and skills. But on top of this is to empowering older adults to define what internet should mean for them, not how we design the internet for them, but give them the right tools, offer them the right way to use the internet, and not just get out of the way, and let older adults define the internet for the older adults. And I think that's the most humane way to live in later stages of our life, if we're lucky to reach there. And I think for that reason, this digital divide is a very important issue and must be addressed in a democratic society. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have Lungalo and the Martin family who raised their hand. Again, if anybody wants to testify, go ahead and just raise your hand and I will move you forward.
Good evening, everybody. How are we doing? Thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to actually have my nephew speak first in regards to his experience with the whole internet. So I'm going to have him speak first, and then I'm going to wrap it up for what took place today. So come on.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my experience. My name is Takari, and I attend to the Boston Public School. And my experience with the internet is kind of hard because when I went to school, it used to kick me out of like some of the work, and then when we started doing Zoom, it was kicking me out all the time. And then when I'm at home, I try to watch TV with my family. It usually just freezes and then kicks us out.
So speaking of that, today was an ordeal. Right now, we are using the hotspot on my phone in order to access our internet. I've been down on internet all day. We rely upon our internet for various things. First of all, we're also caretakers for an Alzheimer's patient, an Alzheimer's family member, which is my dad. This device I have in my hand tracks him. I was unable to SOS or receive calls on this device because it does not work. And so in saying that, it also, we monitor him with another device. So we monitor tracking his movement so he can have more mobility and have more freedoms, but be independent. But we also track him inside the home with using cameras and everything else as well. So when our internet doesn't work or our internet's down, or I get alerts that's been turned off, I'm rushing over to another home to make sure that he has not left his home or something has gone wrong. But it's pretty much, today was a very frustrating day. I work with young people too. So not being able to connect with them, video chat with them, where I was in the middle of a after school program where we were teaching about job readiness today. And I actually could not participate in that section of teaching them about job readiness because my internet was down and I was doing the Zoom via my cell phone, my work cell phone. So this has become a real hard issue. We've talked to Verizon time in and time out. My mother has let Verizon on our property to put Fios in, but we were told that we don't have Fios in our neighborhood when we do call customer service, which is not true, because my neighbor on Larchmont Street, they have Fios and we don't. And I'm trying to understand that. My neighbors in Roxbury have Fios and we don't. It's really frustrating, especially when it interrupts our young people's education. And especially when we need these tools to have quality of life to stay at home for our Alzheimer's patients, which is very important and key. And that's why I keep showing this device, my AngelSense device, that I need to track my dad. And if he doesn't answer his phone, I'm able to talk to him right through this device. But if I can't get a hold of him, that puts me in a frenzy. That means I have to go and figure it out, call my team and get my team out there looking for him if he's not home by chance. But this is getting to be a bit much, and this is beyond, this is prior pandemic. This has been going on for a very long time, a very, very, very long time. And this has been a financial burden. We spent over a lot of money for all the devices that we carry. Like I said, I'm literally hotspotting a phone to my internet to be able to speak to you guys right now. And that's embarrassing, especially when you're trying to teach other people or work and you can't get on the internet.
Yeah, thank you. It's, it's the first time I at least have heard about tracking an Alzheimer's patient or family member.
We could talk about that.
Yeah, it's another use of technology, and a very, very important one, because it's an Alzheimer's patient, but it could be a family member with illness, but Alzheimer's being one of them.
Right.
It's a very
This can even be used for a child that's special needs as well.
Sure, absolutely. Now, where do you live? You live in
I live in Dorchester, in Phil's Corner.
In Dorchester, right? Okay. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Another viewpoint.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yet another reason why it's such a basic need. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Tracy. I don't see any other hands raised. Again, if you want to testify, just go ahead and raise your hand and I will promote you to be able to speak.
I wonder whether Ms. Paulette Darrett would like to address us regarding the note she wrote on the chat. It's a very interesting information.
Paulette, I will move you forward in case you want to speak. If you don't, just let me know.
Huh.
I will put my email again.
A lot of switcheroo. Paulette, you should be able to unmute yourself and turn your camera on if you want to. Otherwise.
I'm putting my email in the chat again in case she just wants to email as well. Love to connect on this 311 issue, certainly because obviously it's with another city department as well that we can connect with to find out more information.
She has joined us.
She has.
Hi, Paulette.
Hi. Did I hear you call my name?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I've been firing off emails here. Yes. Hi. You're giving me an opportunity to speak?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have a couple of issues. One, I'm involved in several major senior organizations in the city, and I just heard about this hearing this morning at 10:30 at a exercise class at Grove Hall. So I'm just curious as to how other people found out about it. So that's one thing. Another is that I've noticed that many of my peers, so I retired 3 years ago, became very actively involved in the Boston community. I'm a retired educator. And I've noticed that the majority of my peers are not on the Zoom meetings that I spend most of my time on these days. I have acute Zoom fatigue. And when I call people on the phone, they tell me all of the things that you all just heard from so many people, and I'm amazed. And the last thing I want to say real quick is that I live in Mattapan, on Mattapan Street, and I do not have access to 311. And when I contacted Verizon, they said that they're not hosting it at this time, that they have certain areas, geographical areas that they have already worked on, but they haven't gotten to my area yet. And I notified the mayor because we were, the mayor always meets with senior citizens. And they said they were working on it, but this was a good 18 months ago that I brought it to their attention. So it just seems unfair to me that we have a service that we are advertising to the entire city. If you have an issue, this is what you do. Especially if it's not a 911 emergency. And yet there are people that don't have access to it. And so I thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak on this issue. I thought that there wasn't going to be enough time. So I actually sent Susan the email, and then I sent, I said that gentleman one. I was like, okay, what's going, and so just as an aside, I hear about all these commissions and things. I don't see anybody that looks like me. So right now I'm talking about my age. Do you know what I mean? I don't see anybody that is in my age group that are on these different commissions. And I just feel like,
Margaret.
I don't want to quote her, but I just think
You'd be surprised how old some of us are.
Okay, all right. Maybe you all are older than you look. How's that?
Well, I'm 75.
All right. Okay, you're older than you look. All right. I'll give you that. All right. I just want to make sure that my voice is being heard.
And we also have a retired judge, Black judge from Roxbury, actually.
Right.
Couldn't make it today, but I
He's in
believe
his
Judge,
70s as well. He's not
right,
here.
Judge Leslie is about 71.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Just,
That's okay.
you know, thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
listening.
That information about 311 is very helpful, Paulette, very helpful, because we haven't heard it before. And that's amazing that there are parts of the city that don't have that connection.
That's what I said, yes.
That's amazing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, Paulette.
Thank you. Anyone else that we can see, Susan?
I don't have anyone else that raised their hand.
Yeah. Well, we'll give it a couple of minutes. And
sure, of course.
The other day I was part of the acting mayor's transition team, and I think you were too, weren't you? Yeah. And there was a readout the other day. I don't know whether Ann, you were on the call on the readout, the report out to the mayor and her staff. But one of the things that happened is her chief of policy, who was listening to the readout, her internet kept going out. So Mary Churchill, she lives in Dorchester, and it kept freezing, and then she couldn't get on at all, and then it kept freezing and going out. So, it was sort of poignant that it was the senior policy person to the mayor listening to the report out. But that's really interesting. I think two things that I heard tonight that I didn't know about at all was the issue around monitoring people with illnesses, that people not in their homes or even in their homes are using devices that need the internet to do that. And the other issue around 311, that's really, we really need to check that out to see if how that is. So that was pretty interesting. I hadn't thought about that at all.
Margaret, I can tell you, for instance, that people who have CPAP machines for breathing at night,
Yeah.
those machines require an internet connection.
Yeah.
So, and those are ubiquitous. I mean, there are thousands across Boston. They're very normal kind of appliance.
Okay.
Without internet,
Right.
somebody with acute sleep apnea would not be identified right away.
Right. And I think there are people too with heart conditions and other things who are now connected through the internet to their doctors for monitoring. It used to be through a phone line, if I remember, but now that's something we might check on too in the medical profession, that they're now connected through the internet through monitoring. I know that's true with the CPAP machines. But that's another issue I hadn't even thought about in terms of the internet access. So
just a point on an interesting point on the medical piece. When Verizon comes in and puts in what do you call it, FiOS, that they want to cut the copper line that's attached to your house to your phone line to eliminate that. A lot of medical devices need a copper line because the phone lines stay up during a power outage, since it's a separate system. But the Verizon, your internet only has a battery pack. I think it's good for 12 or 24 hours without electricity. So it's interesting that we're eliminating a much safer, dependable system of the copper line telephone, putting a new system on that's a lot more vulnerable to power and such, and weather even in some points. But a lot of people's medical devices are still life crucial infrastructure requirements.
Wow.
So just a thought.
Yeah, no, it's important information. Important information. And one of the people that testified, talked to us was, she said that the street next to her had FiOS, but she did not. It was one street over. She said that.
I had that problem in Dorchester for many years.
Yeah, yeah.
It was close by, but it just wasn't close enough. Wasn't
close enough, right? Yeah. And the statistics we heard from the woman who talked about aging, about 82% of seniors live in Boston public housing. Did I get that right? 62% live in Boston public housing and 84% are considered low income. We need to get that data from her. That's pretty startling data if that's true. Because that's one of the things that I'm very curious about, is something I'd love to find out about, is if in other cities, internet providers provide free internet to seniors in public housing. As opposed, she also said, which I thought was interesting, is that it shouldn't be in a common room. You know, you shouldn't have to talk in a common room because, you know, talking about medical conditions or RT of family or whatever. And once you're in the building, you know, running it into people's homes is not very expensive. So anything else, people? Yeah, Ben.
On the subject of phones and copper lines, I noticed that one participant in the meeting is dialed in, and I think if you, whoever is the 781 number, if you want to raise your hand, I think you hit *9 to do so. I was struck that a couple of the folks who came in do work in the field of elders, and I think it would be interesting to take that that document that was prepared for this meeting, that has some of the maps, and to have something like part 2 of the document that has income, racial, and ethnic composition of various census tracts, and do something similar for seniors. And I'd like to be able to visualize that as well.
if we can.
If we can.
Yeah, yeah.
But always an if with the data.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We might be able to do it by age. I don't know.
We'll try.
We'll find out. Okay. So if Susan, you don't see anyone else?
I do not, Chairwoman.
Okay. All right. So terms of next steps, we will have invitations out to Comcast, Verizon, and Starry, is that the name of it?
Sorry.
Starry for May. Unless you folks think we should wait another month. I don't know. I think we have quite a bit of information. Maybe we don't have it all, but we know that there are a lot of problems, and a lot of problems in certain parts of the city, and the people who are trying to, from everything from what we heard tonight about people monitoring people with health issues to the kids on trying to do homework and access school, to accessing medical care. When I heard the woman from the community hospitals, what she say, 16% can use video. I mean, they don't have access to video. They use telehealth, being real telehealth, not video, because they don't have access to video. Now, though, she could be talking about people outside of Boston too, not just Boston, but we need to understand some of this, and we need to help with understanding it from them. And so I think we're trying to do that in May, unless someone suggests an alternative. I'm open to hearing. Do you want to hear more from others before we talk to them? Do you want more data before we talk to them? We could push it off to June, and it's up to you. We still have a lot of information which we haven't shared with you from Talia, which we could just send out to people. Reyes, she has a couple of page sheet, which is quite detailed, that backs up the map that we originally showed you. We gave it to Talia, and it's in the map we originally did, and it has a lot of data attached to it that we can send you, plus comments about the map and comments about the city and quality and access. We should probably send that out after this meeting.
Okay, Talia and I will get together and put together a package to send around. You also, commissioners, got some a brief that we circulated. It has a lot of links, and I recommend that you check the background of some of the practices that providers use sometimes, and that might affect, might be causing some of the issues you heard about today.
Yeah.
Or might not.
So,
yeah, go ahead, Ben.
How are we going to structure the meeting in May in terms of, if we have three industry representatives, for lack of a better word, are they going to each give prepared statements all in a row? Or are we going to, how are we going to ask them questions? I'd just like to discuss a bit of the details of how's that going to function.
My suggestion, and I'm glad to listen to anybody else, my suggestion is that we send them the maps and the data that we have ahead of time.
Absolutely.
And I mean, this is not a gut you kind of event. This is to help us understand this data and these numbers and this map and the problems that we have. And like if there's a 311 problem, boy, that's something I'd like to know about too. But help us understand this. And what are your suggested solutions? And why, you know, why are there parts of the city that don't have high quality internet? They don't have FiOS. Why is that? And what can be done about it? And, you know, Comcast Infinity has most of the city, but Verizon has a piece too. What do we need to do? What is it that, this is Boston in 2021, and we have people who don't have internet, and we have a lot of people who don't have quality internet. Why? And I think we can ask more specific questions than that, but I think that's our goal, is to figure this out. And they keep, I don't know whether you've seen on television, but, you know, Comcast advertising this, they're spending $1 billion on closing the digital gap. And Comcast just announced a program called Lift in Boston. We're taking credit for it. that it just got announced last week, and it is to fill a digital gap in certain places in Boston. So one of the things we'd like to hear about that. So I think it is not at all a sort of gotcha. It is an opportunity to hear from them, to say, we have these problems. You are our partners. What do you need? What do we need to do together? What do we need to fix this problem in town, which is lack of access and really low quality, because it is affecting people's basic lives in terms of learning, jobs, health. What do we need to do to solve this? I mean,
I think it's very important that I think even they do understand that there is an issue. Otherwise, Comcast would not come up with additional programs for the community. There is an understanding that this situation is unfair and unjust, even from the providers. But I don't think they have sat together ever in Boston and talk about these things with anybody. This might be the first opportunity for this conversation to happen.
I don't think Comcast and Verizon sit together.
They should.
I mean, but in terms of the structure of the meeting, I think that it would be valuable for individual commissioners to be able to ask questions and follow-up questions.
Yeah.
And just cognizant of, you know, there are 7 of us,
right?
3 of them. You know, I don't know what makes the most sense, if it's sort of like divide and conquer, and, you know, certain commissioners are paired with certain of the industry reps, or but I do think that we need to carefully think about how to budget time appropriately to make it run smoothly, and to give everyone an opportunity to ask the questions they want to ask.
I think that's right. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things we've, sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Talia and I have a set of 6 questions that we will circulate among you for you to consider if those are appropriate questions to be asked, or if you would prefer, given the context and the information you have and are gonna get, if you think that there should be other questions should be asked of all 3 of them.
What I think, particularly what Ben said, Commissioner Goldberg, in light of this discussion, it may perhaps it may make sense to push the meeting up a little bit. For members of the public at this point, I think the next meeting is for May 19th, which is 3 weeks from today. And certainly you're welcome to come back and listen and see, the providers, if you will, in the hot seat, as the saying goes. And certainly you can have additional comments in the public section at that point as well. But I think may make sense in terms of what Ben is saying to perhaps take some time between now and then. Certainly perhaps even have the meeting, if you will, in May 19th, but not bring them in and sort of have a discussion and have Talia present, right? And go into sort of where we are and what we've learned, sort of have a deeper discussion on the subject matter in the complex stuff that we have, right? The data, some of the stuff we've heard, obviously go through some of the, hopefully we'll have some submissions that will come through, through email, written testimony. So I'm thinking there might be a sort of pause. Let's think this through more thoroughly, and then go to the next phase in June. But that's just a suggestion, since we're 3 weeks away from essentially bringing them on. Any comments?
I don't know that we necessarily need an immediate meeting, but I'm not sure that I also, but what I'm trying to express is that I'm looking for an opportunity to be able to react to what they say, ask them questions based on what they say, and have enough time in that period to ask follow-up questions to really drill down on issues. And I just want to make sure that there's that structure set up so that there is time available to do that.
Okay. What if we bring it? Go ahead. Sorry.
Who was talking? I didn't.
I was talking, Madam Chair. I was saying perhaps to follow up to Ben's comment, what if we, broke it into 2 meetings then, right? We bring 1 or 2 of them to give chance, if you will, right? Unless you're thinking break it in a space where we say a couple of commissioners focus on the space that, Verizon sits, and a couple of commissioners focus on the space of Comcast, right? And the rest focus on, the other smaller companies. It could be a way to sort of have, between now and then to have the ability to dive into each space, right? And not, obviously what I'm getting from you, Ben, is that we want to be as thoughtful and as thorough with them as possible, right? So that's why I'm thinking out loud in this space.
So here's what I think. I think that we ought to get Talia's information out and the 6 questions she prepared. I would suggest that the commissioners add to those 6 questions other questions, and that we divide up those questions among the commissioners to ask. And then anyone can ask a follow-up question, which is really helpful to have people ask follow-up questions, because often when you're asking a question, it's helpful to have somebody listening and make sure that they're getting the right answer, and anybody should feel comfortable asking a follow-up question. But we should have a list of questions that we're ready to ask. And why don't we send those out that we have, and why don't we ask all of you to add to them and try to do that within the next week. And if for some reason we don't think we're prepared, we'll put it off. But I hate to put it off to June because it's the summer. And once you hit June, people are gone and they don't pay attention, and
The
you
6
know.
questions can be circulated tonight or tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
They're
okay.
ready.
And then if people will add to them, you know, we can have those out to people. If you will add to them, then we would try to turn those around. If you add to them by, let's say if you add to them by next Wednesday, then we can have them turned around so people will have them by Friday. And so let's try to do that, okay? Does that work for people?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And if you've got other people who are, you know, steeped in this issue that you want to ask to be involved, feel free. You know, these are questions that you should ask while you've got these people in front of you. Feel free to get advice or help as we go along. Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, so let's make sure that everybody has the material Talia did and the questions, and then let's make sure folks have an opportunity to add to those questions, and we'll see where we are by the end of next week. A week from now, well, a week from now. What is today? Wednesday? Yeah. So, all right. Do you have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. We learned a lot tonight. Thank you. And thank all the participants for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
Good
for the hard
night.
work.
Thank you, everyone.
Be well. Thank you.